Looking back on the year that's already past us, what were the biggest forces that were impacting your sectors?
From my perspective, it was uncertainty. You know, when we look at 25 to where we are in 26, a lot of unknowns. It was, retailers were trying to figure out product mix, pricing. They were looking at, how do we get goods into the U.S., forecasting, the amount of goods. From the investor side, we're still challenged as it relates to interest rates. So we talk about capital markets, we talk about, that there's just not enough product out there on the market to acquire, but that's because buyers are waiting and sellers are not selling. We're hoping that this, call it new norm in terms of interest rates, will start to ease and we'll start to see more activity, in 2026.
I would say the same thing. It's really those macroeconomic factors, whether it be the Fed, whether it be inflation, whether it be interest rates, labor shortages. We had an election, so the regulatory environment, particularly as it relates to healthcare. CMS is big for us because their rule changes for Medicare and Medicaid and reimbursements, which affects all the profitability for healthcare providers, which conversely then affects the investors, developers. That's their tenant that they're underwriting that credit, and how can they really view that income stream, and will it be there for them? But I agree with you, Angie. I think some of that uncertainty hopefully has passed. We're seeing some of that stability going forward. Peculiar to healthcare, the labor shortage was a big one. We've always had a nursing shortage since I've been in the business, but now we've seen with physicians as well. And you think about being a physician shortage, that's tougher to solve. We're hopeful that even AI and alleviating some of those tasks that maybe physicians had to do can be passed down even to nurse practitioners or others. So maybe there's a way to help alleviate that. But labor shortages is the one that was the biggest, and I think we're now moving toward a solution there.
I think the capital markets was probably the biggest headwind, the uncertainty within it, not knowing what was happening with the rates, not having a true sense of where we were, or we thought we were someplace and then maybe we weren't. I think that was the biggest thing that really put the stop on decisions, when created more and created more uncertainty for everyone across the board. There's a domino effect that is still hoping, maybe ending.
For industrial, I would say that trade policy probably had one of the biggest impacts for us. There was a lot of uncertainty. It's the common thread to this conversation in the market. So occupiers didn't want to take big risks, not knowing, what the outcome would be. Would consumers be buying if prices went up? How much was trade policy going to impact the market? And the other thing is, in the capital markets, interest rates, definitely the 10-year treasury, all of those things had an impact. So investments were a little lukewarm, to say the least.
So I'm just curious, you're meeting with various clients pretty much 6-7 days a week. And what are clients asking? What's keeping them up at night? Do they have any, concerns, questions that they come to you to get advice on?
We're hearing from the occupiers, they want to know what markets are most competitive. And they're starting to really look into markets they haven't been established in before. So some of those tertiary, tier 2, up and coming markets where there may be more available labor. The cost to rent space is much less expensive. So we're having a lot of those conversations with our occupier clients. And, they're also asking us about optimizing their footprints.
It seems to be that everybody wants to know what's next.
Yeah.
Like, how are we getting out of this, or where's the next step? But from the tenant aspect, they want to know, it's pretty similar than as industrial. It's like, how do we utilize our space better? Yeah. How do we reactivate the return to work? How is that playing into the day-to-day? What are we doing differently to engage people? And the landlord, playing the same game, wants to attract that tenant too. Yeah. So I think it's all about where are we now, where are we headed? It's all about the research.
Very, very similar in healthcare as well. I think the word that comes to mind for me is efficiency. It's efficiency on two fronts. One is efficiency of capital. Again, healthcare providers, it's a voracious users of capital. And then both of your points, as it relates to the space usage, how can they utilize that space better and be more efficient? In healthcare, obviously, you're going into a building and then you're going from the waiting room to the exam room to the doctor's room to rehab. So they're using AI in a lot of interesting ways right now to do that. In fact, waiting rooms are going to become a thing of the past if they haven't already in some locations. Do you need to, in today's environment, be sitting in a big waiting room with all this, paying rent for that? Where you could just be checking in with a kiosk or doing it online on your phone. Some of our locations now have people who sit out in the parking lot until they get buzzed in. They don't have to be sitting in a waiting room. So I think there's some real technology and AI applications which we'll be able to bring to our clients.
Yeah, I think we're all saying kind of the same thing. It's all about, optimization. And, when we look at it from a retailer perspective, those that are very sophisticated, global in nature, they're all saying the same thing. Help us understand our portfolio. Let's take a look at it. Let's slice it, dice it. Look at density. Let's look at incomes, population shifts, spend. And I think our teams are sophisticated where they can take that and absorb the information, and then the results come out. And providing that back to clients has been such a great conversation. And I think they appreciate more that advisory, less transactional. And I think we're seeing much more in the advisory space to looking at the portfolio optimization and then coming up with what is that new norm in terms of the actual footprint. And then going out there and seeing what's
And we're seeing that
available.
across like the work, live, play scenario is coming more and more into cities.
Right.
And why it translates in for like how you bring in a tenant, how the landlord or the owner, takes that building to another level, but what can they actually do to make a difference? So it's all about the consumer base, but the consumer sometimes is the tenant, sometimes it's the owner, sometimes it's the city itself.
It's exciting because it plays into the Colliers culture, being collaborative, working with the clients, wanting to partner with them. Back in the old days, and I'm a veteran, brokers were order takers. What space do you want? Okay, we'll find it and execute. That's not the game anymore. Now it's all about how can we bring you strategic advice. We understand the industry. We understand your goals and objectives, which are industry related. And then we come in and say, okay, how can real estate help bridge the gap to solve those issues you may have and give you the best solution moving forward?